Hey everybody, Stephen Bastian with the Relationship Life. And today we're going to talk about long distance relationships, the good, the bad, and the reality. A lot of times we idealize situations in relationships. We make them like, okay, this is going to be great. We're really optimistic, especially in the beginning, that everything's going to work out the way we planned, everything's going to be perfect, everything's going to be wonderful, and this is going to happen the way we want it to. I mean, how many times have you seen relationships that fall apart and the person that left because they were wronged or the relationship failed and they're not happy anymore will make less of the person? And it goes back to the negativity episode that I did earlier, where, all of a sudden, all the good that person did is gone. And they only focus on the negative. So many, especially women, they do this a lot. I've seen this. I've been this, that I'm the idiot. That the guy is the idiot. I've seen women go, yeah, I left that idiot. Well, that idiot was once someone you loved. That idiot was once someone you wanted to be in a relationship with. And somehow along the line, they became an idiot. Now, a lot of times in relationships, we learn things about the other person that we didn't quite know in the beginning. Maybe we rushed into the relationship, or we didn't take the time to get to know that person very well, or that person put on a false front. I hearkened back in an earlier episode. I talked about how you don't really know a person until you live with them. That person will put their best foot forward, they'll show their best side, but when you get into the day-to-day life, that's where the reality comes in. Maybe that person is not as clean. Like, guys are guilty of this a lot. A girl's coming over to a guy's house, that guy's suddenly going to be Martha Stewart. Like, he's going to clean his whole house. He's going to make sure everything's immaculate because he wants you to see that he is a clean, awesome person. And then you move in with him and the socks are laying on the floor in the middle of the bedroom. And that may irritate you over time. And eventually that person, you start to lose attraction for that person and you lose interest, and then the relationship starts to fade. And like I said, that person becomes the idiot. So we go into relationships idealistic. We think everything's going to be great. Everything's going to be awesome. Long distance relationships, especially, we tend to idealize because we want that to work. We know that in our minds, we know we're not stupid. We know that the odds are stacked against us, that relationship is going to work. People tell you all the time, long distance relationships never work. They can work. They have worked. People have had very successful long distance relationships. But you have to be so well put together, and you have to have a level of maturity and understanding that surpasses any normal relationship. Okay, and I'm going to get into all of that in the reality portion. They say absence makes the heart grow fonder. Well, yes and no. It all depends on the effort you're willing to make the relationship work. Absence can harm your relationship, again, if you're not in it 100%, if you're not all in, and both of you have to be all in, okay? Now, when the relationship first starts out, let's say, because it is a long-distance relationship, 99.99% of the time, you met online. There are exceptions to that rule. There are exceptions to every rule. Everything that I ever tell you in any of my videos, there are always exceptions. Okay, so understand that I make generalities, but there are always exceptions. Sometimes, you could go to a county fair or an event like a concert, or something like that, or a Comic-Con for my nerd friends, and you meet somebody there, and they're not from here. They ain't from around here, okay? In that case, you've already met the person face to face. So that's a little bit different. You met face to face, maybe you spent some time together, maybe even went out to dinner or went to a bar and hung out. Okay? You've developed that personal connection face to face. You've met that person. You've experienced that person. You've experienced the five senses of that person. When you meet online, you don't get the five senses. You get one, maybe two. Okay? The five senses, as you know, are sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. Okay? You may not get all five. I mean, taste, you'd have to kiss the person. Really. I mean, realistically, that's what taste is. And, maybe other things, depending on how far you go the first time you meet. That's totally up to you. I don't judge anybody. But those five senses will stimulate attraction and connection more than just the two. And the only two that you can have online are sight and maybe sound if you're video chatting. Okay, you hear me, you see me. You can't smell me. I'm wearing cologne right now. What kind of cologne am I wearing? You don't know. Okay, it's very expensive cologne. But I'm like that. You can't taste me because you can't kiss me. Okay, you don't know what that's about. You can't touch me. You can't feel my touch. So you are missing senses just by our interaction. And the same goes for online. Now, you've all seen you could go on YouTube and you can look up 1,000 videos for people that meet for the first time in an airport or a train station or a bus station, whatever it happens to be. It sparks. They run up. I've seen videos that are hysterical. They run up to each other and bam! I mean, they... She's wrapped around him. She's got her arms around him, and she's just embracing, and they're kissing and hugging, and oh my God. And this is the first time they've ever met. This is the first time they've ever seen each other face to face. And it sparks and it's magic. And what they don't show you on that video is odds are if it was that intense in the first meeting in the airport, yeah, they probably had sex that night. But when that wears off, the reality sets in. So the good is that you have distance from each other. You're apart from each other. You aren't up each other's butts. A lot of times relationships can fail because there's too much of a good thing. You're seeing each other every day, all day. You're talking. You're spending too much time together, and you burn out quickly. It's like the star that goes supernova. The bigger the star, the quicker it burns out. The more it burns its fuel. For you science nerds, you know this. A red dwarf burns its fuel slowly over trillions of years. A blue supergiant will burn through its hydrogen and convert it to helium to oxygen, carbon, and so forth and so on very quickly, and will only last millions of years because it burns out. The more intense the star, the quicker it burns out. The more intense the relationship, the quicker it can burn out. Because once reality sets in, and that passion and those sparks and that, oh my God, is gone, then you have to deal with the real person. See, a lot of times we idealize relationships, as I said. We almost idolize the person that we're crazy about. Because we built it up in our own minds that this person's so wonderful. It's an illusion. Okay? It's all based on our perception of that person. That person may have status. That person may have fame. That person may have money. That person may be popular on social media. Okay? And we build up that expectation that that person is almost godlike or goddess-like. And we don't see the flaws. We overlook those flaws. But here's the bad. Okay? Now, the good, like I said, the good is you're separated from that person and you have time and space to think and assess, and you can build the relationship slowly. There's no pressure. There's none of that. Now, I'm not talking about, when I say long distance relationships, mind you, I'm not talking about a couple hours away. If you can drive to that person's house within 2 to 3 to 4 hours max, that's not long distance. You know, you can realistically see that person at least once a week. I'm talking about long distance, where you're separated by states or a continent. You know, where one person's in New York and the other person's in San Diego, or one person's in Seattle, Washington, and the other person's in Fort Lauderdale. You know, where you're separated, or even closer than that. I mean, if you're in, I live in North Carolina, and someone would be in Tennessee or Kansas, you know, or something like that, or New York, or Miami, or Atlanta. If you have to get on a plane to see that person, that's a long distance relationship. Okay? So as long as we're clear on what I'm referring to as far as long distance, understand, if I've talked about in the past about imbalance, one person's up here, the other person's down here, not really into the relationship as much. You have to be here, especially in a long distance relationship. You have to be on the same page. You have to have the same level of attraction, the same level of want to be in that relationship. If you're not a priority to that person, that you're in a long distance relationship, you're only an option. And the reason I say that is this: unless that person lives in the middle of Iowa in a cornfield, they have other options locally. You know, if you're in North Carolina and that person lives in Miami, I promise you that person has options in Miami. Okay, there are just too many people. So why would they want to import you? Why would they want to be with you? Now, you may be a great person, but people tend to take the path of the least resistance. I'm not saying they're lazy. I'm not saying they want it easy, but when it comes down to it, you're going to take the path of the least resistance. You're going to take the easiest possible way out. You may have an attraction for somebody that's far away, and the attraction may be mutual. But what happens when that person who has those options goes out to a bar or goes out to a restaurant or to the gym or to the beach or wherever and meets somebody that makes them go, oh my God? Suddenly you're forgotten. Suddenly you're too much trouble. It's too hard. Now, they won't tell you that. They'll just fade away. The text message will become fewer and fewer. The phone calls will become fewer and fewer. I'm busy. I don't have time. I'm sorry. I've been really busy lately. And then they just fade away or ghost you altogether. People don't usually like to confront. So if that person has options, if that person is moderately attractive or better, and you live far away from that person, odds are it will fail. And that's where we're getting into the reality part of this. Okay? If you're a single parent, whether you're a mom or a dad, if you're a single dad and mom has custody of the kids, and you move several hours or several hundred miles away, the reality is, when the relationship has settled into its norm, let's say you meet somebody and they live 3 states away, and there's sparks and there's wonderful, and you go see that person and it's, oh my God. And you decide, I need to be with this person. So maybe you're in a position where you can transfer jobs and you can move to that person's location, to that town, to be closer together, or you move in with that person. What about the kids? They're going to miss you. You're not going to get to see them unless you're extraordinarily wealthy. And the problem with wealthy people is I've been wealthy. The problem with wealthy people is they don't like to spend money. So it becomes problematic you're not going to get on a plane once a week and go see your kids. And if you're a single mom and you have the kids, you've just ripped those kids away from grandma, aunts and uncles, and the father if he's still in the picture. If you're co-parenting, it's even worse. How is that going to affect the kids? You have to think all of these things through and think about the reality of what a long-distance relationship entails. Now, the other person could move to be with you, but is that likely? And you have to look at the reality of that too. Does that person have a job where he or she lives? Are they settled into a life where he or she lives? Do they have family there? Or, like I said, a career that they can't transfer? I mean, if they work for Walmart, they could probably transfer from one Walmart to another. Piece of cake. But if they have a job that's unique to a location, you know, they work at a construction site or a local business, or they own their own business, or they do their own thing, their odds are not going to be able to move that. So either they're going to decimate their livelihood to be with you, or they're not going to move, in which case you're going to have to be the one to move. And like I said, if you have baggage, and I don't like to use the word baggage, but if you have baggage, if you have responsibilities, if you have children, if you have a career, it becomes very problematic. You know, so you have to look at the reality of, like I said, one, does that other person that's far away have options? Are they going to flake on you? Because, you know, now this goes out to the women. We guys, I'm not trying to cast guys in a certain light. There are exceptions, as I said, to every rule. I'm one of them. I am one of the exceptions. But generally, guys will say whatever they need to say to get what they ultimately want. And guys want sex. Okay? It is flattering. I don't care how hot a guy is. He could be the hottest guy in the world and have millions of followers on Facebook and everybody loves him. It is flattering when a girl is willing to pack a bag, hop on a plane, whether you pay for it or she pays for it, and fly God knows from God knows where to come see you. It's flattering. It's awesome. Makes you feel amazing, like this person would jump through hoops for me. So you bang them out, you have a good time, but then things start to get real. After you bang them out, you have fun with them, and it's in their minds it's a one and done. Because, again, just like with the scenario with the kids being visited by the other family members, you're not going to be able to afford to see that person that you're in a long-distance relationship with every week or even every month. So it'll be once every 3 months or 6 months, if that, if you're lucky. And who's paying for that? If you're paying for it, if you're wealthy enough to do it, then you could control your own money. But if the other person's paying for it, wealthy people don't like to spend money. It's too hard. They will take the path of the least resistance. It is worth it for a guy especially to bring a girl in, to import that girl, because in his mind, he's going to put her back on the plane and he's not going to have to deal with her. That's awesome for some guys. That's so unencumbered. But then it starts to become real. It starts to get real. Suddenly he's looking at you as like, well, she's got kids, or she's got this, or she's got that. She's too into me. She wants to see me again. I've already had that. Been there, done that. Thank you very much. And he either ghosts you or it fades away. Now, ladies, I want to warn you, you will think to yourselves logically that if you go see him and you show him an amazing time, and you know what I mean, you throw it at him with both hands and you rock his freaking world. Guys can do that too, but women have a better chance of that happening. That he's going to be addicted to that. That he's going to be like, oh my God, I've got to have that again. It is possible. However, people take the path of the least resistance. If he can get that from you, he can get that from others. and he's not going to spend the time or the money or the have the emotional issues associated with that, the emotional baggage that comes along with that, to be with you when he can get it locally. The other thing, and this is the last part I'm going to talk about, is the reality. Let's say you do go see the person. Let's say it works out. Let's say you're in a relationship. Oh my God, I love you, I can't live without you. You're going to get into, have you ever been in a relationship where the person even lives with you and you wonder, who's he talking to on Facebook? Who's he on the phone with? Why does he go outside every time he gets on the phone? Trust. Trust becomes very difficult in a long distance relationship because you're not there. You don't know what that person's doing when they're not talking to you, when they're not spending time on Skype with you, when they're not spending time on the phone with you. And I promise you, the first time you look on their Facebook page and see that person at a bar or somewhere else, you're going to be thinking immediately in your mind, oh, what's he doing there? What's she doing there? Trust becomes really problematic in a relationship that's long distance because, like I said, you're not there. So you have to be rock solid in your personality. You have to be on your own mission to the degree that you don't give a shit if that person's cheating or not. Because let's say that person that you're interested in, that you're in a long distance beginning relationship with, you've met online, you've talked on the phone for hours, you've Skyped with each other, you've video chatted with each other, and there are sparks and there is attraction, and oh my God, it's awesome, and I'm going to come see you soon. Let's say you're there. If that person's even moderately attractive, or God forbid really attractive on a scale of 1 to 10, today's Monday. I promise you, this last weekend, he or she got laid. They won't tell you. They'll lie to you. And maybe they didn't get laid this last weekend, but I promise you, between now and the time you actually have the money or you guys make the arrangements to go see each other, that person will get laid. Now, if you're okay with that, you could say to yourself, well, we're not in an actual relationship. I don't care what that person does. Right now, that may be true. But once you go see them and you have sex and you're intimate and you're close, then you're going to start to get jealous. You're going to start to get suspicious, and that will wreck the relationship so quick. So you've got to be really secure. You've either got to throw monogamy out the window completely and accept the fact that that person's going to do whatever they're going to do, and there's nothing you can do about it until you're actually living in the same house. But if the person's going to cheat on you when you're far away, I promise you they're going to cheat on you when you're close by. Now, that person may be the greatest person in the world, and you may think that, again, we look at these people as idealistic. So we don't see the flaws. We don't look for the flaws because we want to believe that it's going to be great. You've got to be ready for the reality. And the reality is that when the cat's away, the mouse will play. The mouse will play. Now, I know I'm being all negative, Nancy, and you guys are probably thinking, well, I mean, I've heard of long-distance relationships working. They can, and they do. But you've got to be ready for anything. You've got to accept, because I don't want to see any of you get hurt. And yes, it can work, but the odds are very much stacked against you compared to a local relationship. And again, that's what I'm getting back to. That's what I was hearkening to earlier about that people take the path of the least resistance. You know, it is easier to be in a local relationship. So if you get in a long distance relationship, be prepared for the fact that there come a day when that person that you're in love with or crazy about might message you one day and say, hey, listen, I met somebody else. Or they don't tell you, and you just happen to go to their Facebook page and it says in a relationship with so-and-so, and you're like, what the hell? It can happen. Like I said, unless that person lives in Iowa in the middle of a cornfield and they have no other options, the odds are stacked against you. And I want everybody that's in a long distance relationship to be prepared for that. You have got to be, as I said, completely secure in yourself, in your relationship, and in your trust. If you have any trust issue, if you've ever been cheated on, if you have any emotional PTSD from past relationships, long distance relationships are not for you. If you have family, if you have children, if you have any family quote unquote baggage, long distance relationships are not for you. If you're single and you have no encumbrances whatsoever, and you have no family, and you can move wherever at a moment's notice, long distance relationships are perfect for you. It's all a matter of who you are, who they are, and how much you're willing to trust. It's what it comes down to. It's the reality. And I know you guys don't want to hear that. I know, I'm like I said, I'm being all negative. I'm not trying to be. I'm just being realistic. And the reality is long distance relationships are hard under the best of circumstances. Under the absolute best of circumstances, they are hard. And they only get harder with time. Because that person may miss you so much that they just can't handle missing you. So they find someone else. Or they end it. There's so many variables that are completely unforeseen and unaccountable that long distance relationships are hard. And you have to be ready for that. I'm Stephen Bastian. I'd love it if people would comment and tell me I'm wrong. Tell me your experiences with long distance relationships and how they've worked for you in the past. I'd love to hear about them. And again, like I said, there are exceptions to every rule. I'm just forewarning anyone that might be thinking about getting into a long distance relationship that you have to be prepared for the reality. When the oh my God, hug, hug, kiss, kiss passion is over, the reality will set in. And it's not going to be easy. Anyway, I'm Stephen Bastian. This is the relationship life. I'll see you all next time. Peace.